Okay, class. So we have looked at nouns. And now we're going to look at verbs. And I'm going to show you verbs in a little different way than you have seen them before. Okay? So let me begin. I call verbs the engines of sentences. The engines of sentences, because most often they indicate actions. If we say right now, I am talking, talking is the action. Okay? So that's why I call verbs the engines of sentences. And traditionally, we study verbs in terms of the present, the past, the future. Okay? And so in the present, there are actually four tenses. The simple present, the present continuous, the present perfect, and the present perfect continuous. So I don't know if any of these are new to you, okay? So I'm going to show you examples of each one. Here's examples of the simple present. Now you learned this a long time ago, right? This is goes with I. This goes with he, she, or it, right? And then this goes with they and we and like that. All right. And then this is the verb to be. For all the other verbs, in the present, in the simple present, there are two forms. The one that's basic, that we use with I, we, they, like that. And the one that goes with he, she, and it. And this becomes a problem for students because many times they write, oh, my mom go to the store every day, and instead of saying my mom goes. So the S form of the verb in the simple present gives students a problem sometimes. Okay? All right. So that's the simple present. And in the negative, we use does to say does not talk, do not talk, did not talk, did not go. Okay? So this is still part of the simple present. Does not talk, do not talk, and I put not in parentheses to indicate that that's not part of the verb. Not is not part of the verb. All right. So in the present continuous, we have I am going, and then he, she, it is talking, and then we, they are writing. Okay. In the present continuous, and continuous is indicated by the ing. But you notice here that they have helping verbs. They have to have helping verbs. Very good. And so in the present perfect, we have two forms. The has for he, she, and it. And we have for we and they and I. Okay? So this is the present perfect. And for the present perfect continuous, we have the same thing, but we have now been. He has been studying. They have been writing emails. Okay? All right. So these are the four tenses of the present. Any questions? So far, so good? All right. Very good. So the other part that I want to show you is that I want to be talking about words or the verbs in terms of whether they are one-word verbs, like these, a single word, or verbs that have two words. Here we have two words: am going, is talking, are writing, has talked, have written, and verbs that have three words. Okay? Has been talking, have been writing. All right? So, in the simple present, for example, there are no verbs. We do not indicate the simple present with a 3-word verb or a 4-word verb. Okay? Only with 1-word verbs and with 2-word verbs. Okay? And the present continuous, we use 2-word verbs to indicate the present continuous. And we use 2-word verbs to indicate the present perfect. 2-word verbs. And we use 3-word verbs to indicate the present perfect continuous. Okay? So, one way to look at verbs is this way. Another one is to consider whether they have 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, or 4 words. All right, so I went pretty slowly on this. Here is the past tense. In the past tense, we have simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. Pretty much like the present tenses have. We have single words here. Was we include with I, he, she, it, and then we and they with were. Same thing here. I, he, she, it, we, and they. Now notice in the past perfect, we only have one form, the had. Had talked, had written, had come, had traveled, had arrived. Okay? Had for the past perfect. And the past perfect continuous, we just add the been and the ing. Had been talking, had been working, had been eating, had been writing. Okay? Any questions on the 4 tenses of the past tense?
So the past perfect is when you did the thing, but you're not doing it anymore, right?
Good question. That's right. An action that took place totally in the past. Totally in the past. So last semester you took different classes than you are taking. You had taken 3 classes or 4 classes. Yeah.
Because the past perfect continuous is something that you're doing, like, for example, every day, right?
No. The past perfect continuous is still in the past.
Still in the past?
It's still in the past. I can show you the difference. This way. The contrast between present perfect and past perfect. Let's say this is the present. This line is going to be the present. Okay? And let's say you started learning English 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So 3 years ago would have been 2015. I have been studying English okay? So let's say that 2015 is here. So this indicates that you started there and you are still studying because here you are in a class. Now let's do past perfect. I'm going to circle this. Past perfect. If I said I lived in LA, from 2016 or earlier, let's say 2010 to 2015. I had lived or had been living, either one, in LA from 2010 to 2015. Okay, now this is the present. So let's say 2015 is here and 2010 is here. So all in the past, this is the period where when you were living in LA, or when I was living in LA. Okay? So it doesn't matter if it's past perfect or past perfect continuous. It's still an action that took place completely in the past. The present perfect is the one where the action starts in the past and continues to the present.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good question. All right, very good. Let me pull down the screen again. Okay, and show you the future. So in the future we have simple future. We have will write, will read, and we have a second way of showing the future in English, right? And that's with the present progressive tense. Like we say, tomorrow, my aunt is going to travel to Los Angeles. She is going to travel to Los Angeles. And tomorrow, we are going to read a composition. Okay? Now, I put to write and to read as in parentheses because they're not part of the verb. These are infinitives. These are infinitive verbs, correct? Infinitive verbs. We can tell that because of the to. To plus the base form make infinitive verbs. Is that clear? Any questions on that? Okay, you have studied those. Very good. And the future progressive is done with 3 words. We'll be writing, and actually I should put this here because is going is only to the verb is going. Is going. To be doing, not a verb, not part of the verb, but we use it to indicate it. Okay, so actually these two belong here, Okay, all right. So now you notice I haven't put anything here. But there are verbs that have 4 words. Gwendolyn. The progressive? When do we use the progressive? Well, progressive means that the action is being done right now. Right now.
I understand this part, but I don't understand when you use the progressive in the future.
Oh, in the future?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Let's go to the future. Okay. If I say, tomorrow I need to go to Fresno to buy ice cream. Okay. Thank you, Dulce. So tomorrow I'm going to be going to Fresno, or tomorrow I will be going to Fresno to a doctor's appointment. I'm going to be doing that action tomorrow. So that's the progressive. Okay? This is the simple future, but I can say it this way. Many times people say, oh, I'll be graduating in 2019. I'll be graduating next year. You see? I'll be taking English 1A next semester. That's another way of saying I will take English 1A next semester. Yeah, it just gives the impression of the action being done. Of course, it will be done in the future, but it will be in the process of doing it. Because, you know, especially in actions that take a long time. When you take a class, it takes 4 or 5 months, right? So all that time you are taking the class. And so it's not bad to use the present, the future progressive. Yeah. This semester, we will be studying grammar and punctuation and academic writing. That's what we are going to be doing this semester. And that includes right now. Okay? All right, very good. Very good. So, here are the modal tenses, okay? These are what we call the modals. The modals. And will is one of them that indicates the future. So will, can, could, should, would, and might. And there's one more. There's one more. Can somebody think of the one that's missing? It's used more in England. It's which? No.
May?
Huh? No, it's this one. It's
All right.
shall.
Shall.
Yeah, yeah. We don't use it that much in the U.S. Hopefully I don't write on it. So these are pretty simple to use. We just need to remember, you know, the difference between them. The difference between them. Is there one of these that you are not quite sure about? Is there one of those that you're not quite sure about? Could, should, would, might. Is it one of those not clear to you? Okay, very good. So here we have the modals in 2-word, forming a verb of 2 words. Here we have the modals forming a verb of 3 words. Okay, will have been, could have written, should have written, would have had, might have done. I can give you sentences with any of these, or maybe I should ask you to give me a sentence with some of these. Which one would you like me to do? I'll do one. Which one do you want me to do?
Might.
Might? Yeah. I might have finished on time today doing what I was going to do, but there's a class here right before us. So I might have been more prepared. I might have been more prepared if there had not been a class here. Okay? All right, so who can give me a sentence with will have been, or could have been, should have taught for 2 points?
I could give up, but I still working hard.
Can you repeat it, Dulce?
I could give up, but I still working hard.
Let me write it. Did you say
I could give up, but I still working hard.
okay? But your sentence, the verb that you use, does it belong here or here? Here. Yeah, it belongs here. How about a sentence with could have written? Can somebody think of a sentence with could have written?
I could have read more, but I gave up too soon.
Yeah. I could have written more, but I gave Up. Excellent. 2. Okay?
I could have learned more, but the teacher was absent.
I could have learned more.
But the teacher was absent.
Very good. I could have learned more, but the teacher was absent. Yeah, very good. 2. Now, any of the other ones? Should, would, might? Yes.
I should have talked more, but I'm afraid to speak in front of the class.
I should have talked more. But I
Afraid to speak in front of the class.
like here, like this.
Yeah.
It has a problem a little bit. It has a problem. Can anyone see the problem? I should have talked more, but I'm afraid to speak in front of the class.
It's supposed to say
I
was afraid.
I was. I didn't quite. Yes. Yes. Very good. Okay. All right. Very good. So now let's go to the ones that have 4 words. 4 words. We don't use these that often, but they are perfectly correct verbs. Will have been working, could have been writing, should have been talking, would have been having, might have been doing. Let's see. If I had not gone to college, I might have been doing work in construction, because I like to work in construction. I might have been doing work in construction. Okay? Now, my son, he doesn't like to do his homework. He goes and plays with his friends. He could have been writing. He could have been doing his homework if he didn't spend so much time with his friends. Okay? So these are all of them have the modals, the modal verbs. Okay? Will, could, should, would, might. And we use them to indicate different situations, especially conditional situations. If my son had not been spending time with his friends, he could have done his homework. So on that condition, if he had met that condition, he could have done that. Okay? So these are not very difficult to use. They're not very difficult to use. Okay? Now the next group is kind of difficult to use. And this is the passive voice. The passive voice. Okay? And the passive voice may look strange, or it may look new to you. Okay? So this is the present. The present is given, are, fed, was arrested. This is the past in the passive voice. Was arrested. This is the present is being taken. A student fell from the roof, and now he is being taken to the hospital. He is being taken to the hospital. Okay, so this is the present progressive in the passive voice. In the passive voice, and these are forward forms. And so, do any of these look new to you? Do any of these look new? Do they need explanation? You have seen them before? Kayla, you have seen these before?
Yes, but I want different word.
Maybe practice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
to practice.
yeah. But I want to show you what is the difference. I want to show you what is the difference between passive voice and active voice. Okay? This way. Let's see. Ricardo, could you read this sentence and then read this sentence? And then Alma, these two. Luis, these two. Jessica, these two. Please, okay? All right. Ricardo, go ahead.
Joy feeds the kids in the morning. The kids are fed in the morning by Joy.
Okay? These two sentences, they say the same thing. Do you agree? Yeah, they say the same thing. So what is the difference? Hmm? The verbs are different. Very true. Here's feeds, and here are fed. Alma, can you read the next two? Very good. Okay. Luis, these two?
A jury convicted Paul
Manafort.
Paul Manafort was convicted by a jury.
Okay. And Jessica, these two?
Michael
Pleaded? Guilty?
Guilty to felony coming fiancé violation.
Yes.
His quality plea was accepted by Judge Kimball.
Yes. Look at this noun. Look at this noun. Violations. Violations. How many adjectives does it have? How many adjectives? Two violations. Two violations. Felony violations. Felony violations. Campaign. Finance. This adjective is actually describing this one. All of them adjectives for violations. Yeah. Okay. So these sentences say the same thing as these sentences. But now what is the difference? What other difference is there besides the verbs being different? Alma. Can you repeat that? Very good point. Very good point. Normally we have a verb that has ing. But here, there's no ing. But the other example that I gave you, a student fell from the roof, and he is now being taken to the hospital. So it is possible to have the ing in the passive, okay? But you make a very good point, Alma, in that we are used to seeing the verb to be with ing words. But in the passive voice, especially the present passive, the past passive, no. The ones that are used are the ones that are in the past tense, in irregular verbs, like I have taken 3 English classes, and so we use taken with the verb to be. With the verb to be. That's how we form the passive voice. Yeah. But there's a bigger difference. There's a bigger difference between these two sentences and these two sentences. And last semester, I talked about the passive voice. I talked about the passive voice. Who can remember what I said for 5 points? 5 points, they woke up. Yeah. 5 points. And you can see it here. You can see it here.
The person who make the action.
Yeah! The person who makes the action. The person who does the action.
In the passive voice, and it was a different person who made the action.
Excellent. 5 points, Wendelin. 5 points. Now I cannot circle Joe. That's the subject. And Joe is doing the action. He feeds. He feeds. But over here, the kids are not feeding. They are the ones who are receiving the food. So Wendelin is totally right. Wendelin is totally right. She remembers from last semester. In the passive voice, the subject is not doing the action. The subject is not doing the action. So I'm going to put here. The subject is not doing. Okay? And over here, okay, so here, these officers, they took my brother. The jury convicted Paul Manafort. And Michael Cohen, he pleaded guilty. But over here, the brother was taken. These are the people that did the action. This is the man that did the action. This is the group of people that convicted. And this is the judge that accepted the conviction. Okay? So very good, very good. This is the passive voice, the passive voice. Okay, all right. So I'm going to come back to the screen. I want to show you 4 groups of words that should not be confused with verbs. Should not be confused with verbs because they are never verbs. The first group are the gerunds. If we see these words, ing words, by themselves with no helping verbs, we cannot underline them twice. We cannot identify them as verbs. Okay? So the gerunds are not verbs, they are nouns. They are nouns. Or they could be adjectives. They could be adjectives. All right, very good. And the second group are these words that can be adjectives like frozen food, swollen arm, a fallen tree, okay, a beaten team, broken arm, okay, the chosen candidate. These words, they can be verbs if they are used in the present perfect. Had chosen, had beaten, has taken. If they have a helping verb, then they are verbs. But if they're by themselves, they're probably adjectives, and they are not verbs. Okay? All right. Because we're going to be doing an activity looking for verbs. We're going to be underlining verbs, and so we need to not include these. Okay? The third group are the infinitive verbs. The infinitive verbs. The ones that have to plus the base form. To plus the base form. Okay? And I see Wendelin taking a picture. Wendelin, I'm going to put this presentation on Canvas. On Canvas. You'll be able to see it anytime you want.
Your book, right?
And I actually, pardon me?
This part is in your book?
Yes, yes. But they are in the book under the section on verbs. And I mentioned these. Yes. Yeah, they're in the book. And the last group are these. These are adverbs. Adverbs. And a lot of times they are between a helping verb and a main verb. Like, you should not eat in this class. Should not. The verb is should eat. Should eat. Not include the word not. Right? And so she always comes to class early. She always comes to class early. What's the verb? Comes. Comes. Always should not be underlined as a verb. Okay? So, never, to, very, so, also, now, often, soon, almost, already, well, yet, usually, frequently, never verbs. Never verbs. They're adverbs. Okay? So these are the four groups that we need to remember not to identify as verbs. Any questions? Okay.